is proudly presented by AT&T Uverse TV.
The following is a presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Fox Sports. We are Southwest.
Everybody gets a break or two during the season, and while the Rangers got one yesterday, they also made their own breaks. Timely hitting built the Rangers lead, and some great defense kept Tampa Bay off the board much of the night. Tonight, all eyes will be on the newest Ranger, Nick Tepesch, making his Major League debut on the mound when your Rangers meet the Tampa Bay Rays next. Under clear skies and with warm and windy conditions, the Rangers trying to gear up to make it a couple in a row over the Tampa Bay Rays at Rangers Ballpark in Arlington. And welcome into game number 8 of the 2013 season with Tom Grieve, Steve Busby. Glad you could join us this evening. Should be a good night here in Arlington. The Rangers trying to make it 2 in a row over Tampa and 3 in a row for the season. And Tom, it's been really the story of some aged players, if you will, good old players, as a matter of fact, for the Rangers.
Well, there's a lot of talk in the offseason about the people that the Rangers lost.
Yeah.
Lost some very good players, but they also added some very good players. And when you talk about Lance Berkman, you talk about A.J. Pierzynski, and what they bring to the team, they've both done that the first week of the season. Lance Berkman has an on-base percentage of over 50%. He's walked a lot. He's had big hits for the Rangers. A.J. Pierzynski had 27 home runs last year for the White Sox, hit his first one for the Rangers last night. He's swinging the bat well, catching the staff well. They've done everything that the Rangers hoped they would do.
Boy, both hitting over 400, as you will see, and providing the leadership also that the Rangers had hoped that they would bring with them when they joined the ball club. It'll be interesting tonight to watch the veteran A.J. Pierzynski behind the plate, because Nick Tepesch is going to be the youngster out there making his debut tonight. So pull up a chair, grab a cold drink, sit back, relax, watch Nick Tepesch take the mound for the first time in the big league level. The Rangers and the Rays next on Fox Sports Southwest. is brought to you by Ford. Take the EcoBoost Challenge at your Texas Ford dealer. Ford is the best in Texas. Buy the wireless receiver only from ATT Uverse. Visit att.com/free your TV. Rethink possible. Buy Progressive. Visit progressive.com today. And buy a reminder from Budweiser. Great times are waiting. Designate a driver. A warm and breezy evening here in Arlington. The Rangers taking the field. Ron Washington's club comes in at 5-2 for the young season. And let's head down to Emily Jones before we get going. Emily?
Well, you guys talked about the way Lance Berkman and A.J. Przinsky are fitting in with this team, and that is definitely the truth, especially in the clubhouse. These two guys hitting it off with their teammates. Lance Berkman holds court quite often, fits in very nicely. His .571 on-base percentage leads the majors, and, of course, that doesn't hurt. None of this lost on the teammates.
And so far, he's been doing a lot of things for us. He's a guy that, he teach us, to go out there and ground every at bat. Don't go out there and just, swing baseball. I think that he always having a plan. He takes a lot of pitches. He's always ready for that pitch in the middle. And when you look in every at bat that he's take, you really learn a lot.
And Lance Berkman, the perfect conveyor of the message of new hitting coach Dave Maggott, and that patient approach at the plate. The pitch selection seems to be rubbing off on this team from top to bottom in this lineup. The results, still a small sample size, but encouraging to start off, guys.
All right, Emily, thank you. There is the Rangers DH, Lance Berkman. And Nick Tepish finishes warm tosses. Here's the Tampa Bay Rays batting order, brought to you by McDonald's. Desmond Jennings leads off. He's a center fielder. Matt Joyce is next, followed by Ben Zobrist, the second baseman. Evan Longoria bats cleanup, plays third base. First baseman is James Loney. DHing batting sixth, Shelley Duncan. Junel Escobar bats seventh. He's the shortstop. The catcher is Jose Molina. And batting ninth, playing in left field, is Kelly Johnson.
And our Budweiser scouting report on Nick Tepish. Major league debut. He had a good tune-up in Round Rock. AAA team for the Rangers. 5 shutout innings. 5 innings, no earned runs. 7.4 strikeouts per 9 innings in the minor leagues. Only 1 start above the AA level, and last year he was in AA for about half the season. Minor leagues, 300 innings coming into the season. College pitcher. Rangers like the fact that he throws strikes and has 4 pitches that he can throw for strikes.
Nick Tepish facing Desmond Jennings, a count of 1 ball and 1 strike. That is just off the outside corner. It's 2-1. Tepish, a 24-year-old. He is from Blue Springs, Missouri. Went to the University of Missouri and signed out of there with the Rangers. Check swing, and he went around. Oh, he did not. The appeal down to first base umpire Tim Welke. He said, nope, he didn't go around.
I don't know about that. Close. Definitely could have gone either way.
Line drive, Kinsler to his left makes the grab. Jennings hit it off the end of the bat a little bit, and Kins made the play, 1 gone. And let's look at the Ranger defense. Murphy, Martine, and Cruz left, center, and right. Moreland at first. You saw Kinsler at second. He's joined by Elvis Andrews up the middle. Adrian Beltre at third. A.J. Przinsky is the catcher. And Nick Tepish is on the mound. So he has his first major league out. Desmond Jennings, a soft line drive. And here's Matt Joyce, left-handed hitting right fielder. And you look at the defensive alignment. Joyce pretty much a pull hitter, as that alignment would tell you. Good fastball from Nick Tepish at 92 miles an hour for strike 1. Just off the outside corner. Tepish basically a fastball slider type pitcher. He will change speeds. He's capable of, he has all 4 pitches in his repertoire, with a changeup on the curveball also. There's the big curveball, and it's in for a strike. It's 1-2. And that's one of the things, Tom, that the ball club really likes about him. He's not afraid to throw any of his pitches. He feels comfortable doing that. Got him swinging. Good hook. And there is the first major league strikeout for Nick Tepish.
Now, I think what you worry about with a young pitcher in his debut is a pitcher that doesn't have good command maybe is just limited to his fastball, has subpar off-speed pitches. But I think when you've got a college pitcher who has the 4 pitches, see the good curveball that he gets Joyce to offer at, you can mix in 4 pitches and throw strikes with him, then I think you feel more comfortable with him making a big league debut, be able to hold his own.
2 away for Tepesch and the Rangers. Here's Ben Zobrist. Zobrist, of course, the middle of that firestorm last night as the game ended. He takes strike 1. Mike Maddox got the baseball for Nick Tepesch. And Zobrist got the baseball too off of Nick Tepesch. He fouled it right down at his right foot.
You're talking about the fastball, curveball, slider, changeup. The last 2 pitches were 85 miles an hour. They look like more like cutters than a slider.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same pitch or not. We'll be able to tell as the game goes on. But that last pitch to Zobrist got in on a hands pretty nicely.
Yep. 0-2 the count. Hard hit, but pulled foul outside first. We'll come back and try it again.
The other thing, I guess, Buzz, you know better than I do, but sometimes there's a fine line between what's defined as a cutter or a slider. I mean, some guys throw what they call they call it a cutter, but it looks more to a viewer like a slider.
And I agree. I think that line of distinction has been blurred outside 1 and 2. You know, to me, at least what I believe, a cutter is a cut fastball.
Right.
It's a fastball type pitch, velocity-wise. Maybe a mile or 2 slower than your 4-seam fastball. That's inside 2 and 2. And a slider is a breaking ball, where you're imparting a different kind of spin because of the way you have finger pressure and the way your hand releases it.
And so what would you guess for a fastball slider differential, maybe 10 miles an hour?
From the fastball to the slider?
Yeah.
No, I would think if you're throwing, like Tepesch is throwing 92, 93, his slider is probably going to be 87, 86, 87.
Oh, okay.
And a cutter would be halfway in between that and his fastball. So 90.
I think there's probably a lot of guys that are calling a cutter something that's about 85 miles an hour.
I agree with you. Again, the 2-2 pitch. And ball 3 to Zobrist. So Nick Tepesch finding out firsthand about Zobrist's ability to command the strike zone with his swing. Doesn't swing at a lot of bad pitches. Tepesch to the wind, the payoff pitch. Out to second base, Kinsler. It's a good hop on to first, and it's a 1-2-3 inning for Nick Tepesch. Something this young man will never forget. Rays gone in order. No score after a half inning. The Rangers coming up on Fox Sports Southwest. Yeah, Nick Tepesch disposes of the Rays in 1-2-3 fashion. Now the Rangers come to bat. In the bottom of the first, Fred Loya Insurance brings you the starting lineup. Ian Kinsler leads off. Elvis Andrews is second. The DH Lance Berkman hits third. Adrian Beltre is cleanup man. Left fielder David Murphy hits fifth. Nelson Cruz, A.J. Przinsky, the catcher, bats seventh. Mitch Moreland's at first. Leonis Martin is the center fielder, batting ninth.
Roberto Hernandez. We'll look at the scouting report for him. Thursday against Baltimore, gave up a 2-run homer to Chris Davis, ended up giving up 4 runs in 6 2/3.
And the first pitch really boring its way in on Kinsler, and that got him in the left elbow.
That's one you kind of hold your breath on right there. Hernandez is an extreme ground ball pitcher. Gets a lot of movement on his fastball. That ball had a lot of movement. Unfortunately, it moved right in off the elbow of Ian Kinsler. Pretty good velocity, keeps the ball down, should get a lot of ground balls.
Right above the elbow. And, Tom, you've mentioned this a lot of times. Ian Kinsler does as little as possible to get out of the way of a pitch.
He doesn't want to move.
Nope. And that one just kept boring in on him.
Yeah.
Most guys, without that kind of movement, would not have hit Kinsler. He would have spun out of the way. But this one, he had no chance.
He stands without moving as long as he possibly can before he ducks out of the way.
Again's aboard. That's kind of a rude way to start the ball game, but he'll take it as long as it's nothing that's going to keep him from doing his job at second base in the rest of the ball game.
And we ought to mention, Buzz, speaking of elbows, Jared Weaver is going to be out for a month.
How about that?
Broke a bone in his elbow. Is that what it was?
Sunday, yeah.
Tried to dive out of the way of that line drive that Mitch Moreland hit.
Sunday night here. I don't think I've ever heard of a pitcher, doing that to himself, breaking something, falling down.
No. I guess the good news for him is it's his left arm and not his right arm, but still, to be out for a month is not good.
Yeah, and it's amazing too how much that left arm comes into play, balance wise and everything else.
Sure.
There's a fastball strike to Elvis. It is 0-1. Andrus at 250. Elvis a couple of hits in last night's ball game. Ian stepping off that lead at first. Just underway. Bottom of the first inning. And Hernandez set. Breaking ball hangs high, and it's 1-1 strike.
Hernandez has spent his career with Cleveland. Gets a new start this year with the Rays in more ways than one. New uniform and a new name.
Yeah.
Used to be Fausto Carmona. Now he's Roberto Hernandez. Hasn't beaten the Rangers in his last 7 starts against them. In fact, he's 0-5 against the Rangers in those 7 starts.
There goes Kinsler. The bunt is on, and it's out in front of home plate. Throw on to first. The sacrifice works, so a bunt and run. Unless somebody missed a sign.
Yeah, I got to go with that. I'm not sure who missed the sign, but with Ian running, it was either a steal, a hit and run. Doesn't look like a sacrifice bunt the way Elvis bunts. I think he's bunting for a base hit. In any event, he'll get a sacrifice on that.
Goes down as a sacrifice. 1-3 if you happen to be scoring along with us. No, you got Kinsler at second base now with 1 out, and Lance Berkman is at the plate. Off speed, catches the outside corner from Hernandez. Berkman at .571 on base percentage, had 3 walks in last night's game. That despite having his 6-game hitting streak snapped. He went 0 for 1 against Tampa in the opener. That .571, the best on base percentage in the major leagues. That pitch is high. It's a ball and a strike. Lance clean shaven today. Said enough of that beard.
I like the new look.
Yeah. Might have been one of those deals. You look at Kinsler at second where the hitting streak was stopped, so he said, I'm going to shave it off. Heck with it.
He looks 5 years younger.
Gets this one well to center field. Going back as Jennings has room just in front of the warning track, puts it away. Kinsler tags, will advance to third. He'll be there with 2 outs now for Adrian Beltre. Take a look at the rest of the Tampa defense. You've seen a few of them. You have Loney at first, Zobrist and Escobar up the middle. Longoria at third, Johnson in left, Jennings in center, Matt Joyce in right field, and Jose Molina behind the plate, handling Roberto Hernandez. 2 gone. Molina talking to Hernandez. Usually you single out a couple of guys in a lineup that you're going to face and say, look, you don't want to let these guys beat you. And I would imagine the way that Adrian Beltre has hit against Tampa in his career, especially in this ballpark, that Molina reminding Hernandez, hey, you don't have to try to throw every pitch for a strike. We can be kind of careful with him. There's a fastball in the inside corner for strike one. Adrian at 207 for the year. Has a couple of RBI. Chopper foul, and the count moves to 0-2. Mentioned the Rangers at 5-2. They won a couple straight. One shy of their early season high of 3 in a row. Tampa coming in at 3-4. Rangers tied with Oakland for the top spot in the AL West. 0-2 the count. Slowly hit up the middle. Escobar has to hurry and just does get Beltre. So the side retired. The Rangers leave Kinsler stranded. No hits in the inning. We've finished one. No score. Rangers and Rays on Fox Sports Southwest. Park in Arlington. Young ladies, and hey, give me that candy over here. You get a little slow on the uptake.
Only reason I agreed to come to the game tonight was if you got me cotton candy.
Yeah. Evan Longoria leading things off. It'll be the middle third of the order to face Nick Tepesch, who had a 1-2-3 first inning. Good breaking ball. It is 1-1 to Longoria. Longoria, a 3-hit game last night. He is off to a great start. 417 the average. 10 hits this year. They've all been singles. He got a good rip and a miss.
Good sinker.
Yep.
91-mile-an-hour fastball that just dropped right out of the strike zone.
This is the longest Longoria has gone in a season without having a home run. That pitch outside. It's now 2-2.
Longoria last night had 3 line drives to the outfield for base hits, all softly hit. One to right, then center, then left.
2 jam shots and 1 off the end of the bat. Was that what it was? I think.
I know the one to right was off the end of the bat. One to left might have been a jam shot. One to center, I can't picture, but.
Payoff pitch outside, ball 4, and Longoria works the leadoff walk.
We were happy he didn't get a chance to bat again in that game.
Let's say hello to Jim Knox. Jim.
All right, thank you, Buzz. Ranger fans out in full force supporting the Rangers, looking for another win tonight, having a nice time. And recently, the Houston Astros owners, as well as the Texas Rangers owners, got together the first annual Lone Star Cup. This game benefited the Texas Rangers Baseball Foundation, as well as Astros in Action. Mark McLemore and Jim Sundberg participated in the big event. And find out more, log on to TexasRangers.com/foundation. Buzz?
All right, Jim, thank you. And Sonny was a little nervous before that game. He thought he was going to mess up the lineup. So he and Mark McLemore were trying to figure it out. 1 on, nobody out. James Loney, he's the hitter. Loney, as you see, at .211 and .286 on base percentage. Got Longoria at first. And the good fastball catches the outside corner. A ball and a strike. Loney much better in his career against right-handed pitching. Spending the majority of his career with the Dodgers out in Los Angeles. And that pitch just missed. It's 2-1.
That's the one he hoped he swung at. Get a ground ball for a double play. Kept that sinker right around the knees. If that was low, it wasn't low by very much. Joe Madden had said when they face a new pitcher, the one thing that he expects his hitters to do is see a lot of pitches.
There goes Longoria. The hit and run is on. And Elvis trying to get the double play possibly. Almost came up with nothing, but he ends up getting Loney at first. And safely aboard at second is Longoria.
I'm not sure Elvis had a play at second. I think he was going to try to nip the runner at second just because he knew he had plenty of time to get the ball back to first base. In any event, he does get one out. Let's see if he has a shot at it here. I don't think so. I don't think Ian's close enough to the bag.
Elvis just peeking a little bit early. Yep. No, one gone. And Shelley Duncan, the designated hitter, takes a breaking ball for strike one. Duncan came in as a pinch hitter in the 9th inning of last night and drew a walk. Duncan, an outfielder by trade, up there as the DH tonight. Swinging a foul tip. And Tepish now with an 0-2 advantage in the count to Duncan. Kelly Duncan, one of the two sons of Dave Duncan, former big league player and pitching coach for a lot of years with Tony La Russa. And his brother, Shelly, and his brother Chris. A lot of big league time. The 0-2. Tepish now at 30 pitches for the evening through 16 in the first inning. Right-hander studying the series of signs flashed out by A.J. Pierzynski. Behind third, that's where Beltre is stationed. Out number 2. Staying at second is Longoria.
Well, last 3 outs have been on the ground, and watching Nick pitch, I'm sure that's his game plan. Keep the ball down, make the ball sink, and get ground balls. Beltre playing right on the line, playing deep. Nice, smooth, accurate throw, which we've grown to expect every time Adrian gets the ball.
And I still don't know how in the world he throws the ball straight, throwing from his belt. You know, even when you and I had reasonably strong arms, if we threw one from down there, that thing could tail 5 feet going over to first base. He's amazing.
I'd have to wind up and take 3 steps to throw it that far. I couldn't throw flat-footed either.
Junel Escobar, the Rays shortstop, takes outside. Escobar off to a fairly slow start at just 120. Tepish agrees with the sign from Pierzynski. And the 1-0 pitch outside. 2 balls, no strikes. Tepish, a couple of stops in the Ranger organization last year. A-ball, Myrtle Beach, and then up to Frisco. That is off the outside corner. 3 balls and no strikes. And ball 4, a 4-pitch walk puts Escobar aboard. 2 walks in the inning and in the game, and that will bring up Jose Molina. Also bring a visit from Mike Maddox. Well, we have a second here. I want to pass along my very best wishes to a longtime friend and former neighbor, Joe Rupp. Visited with Joe and his wife, Carol, and they're having a pretty good battle on their hands, and I just wanted to tell him that Joe is a huge baseball fan, a huge Ranger fan, and highly decorated veteran of our armed forces. I want to pass along my and my family's very best wishes to you, Joe and Carol, and we're here for you. First and second, 2 outs. Molina steps in. Jose hitting .273. Longoria at second, Escobar at first. And pitch number 1 is a little low out of the strike zone.
And Nick's tune-up start, he beat Omaha 3-1, didn't give up an earned run. Pitched 5 innings, didn't walk a batter. He's not missing by a lot. He's trying to keep the ball around the knees, hit the outside corner.
Check swing, and it's 2-0.
Tempting pitches, and you know, Tampa Bay's game plan coming into the game was to make him throw strikes, get a look at him, don't help him out. They've never seen him before. Want to see all his pitches, so they've laid off some tempting pitches, and they've worked it pretty good to where his pitch count's up there a little bit.
And ball 3 is in the dirt. Brzezinski able to pounce on that before Longoria is able to advance. So 3-0, second straight time that Tepish has fallen behind by that count. There's one thing that really doesn't translate from the minor leagues to the major leagues, and that's the hitter's ability overall to work a pitcher when they decide to do it. You just don't encounter that. There's a strike. You don't encounter that many guys at the minor league level that are able to do that.
No.
And it sure makes a difference. Instead of getting some of those breaking balls swung at that you're used to, all of a sudden guys are taking them for ball 2 and ball 3.
Yeah, I'm sure there's been 3 or 4 sliders to right-hand hitters that are exactly like that.
And there's ball 4. That'll loads them up for Kelly Johnson. The 3 walks in the inning.
Close.
Yep.
Could have gone his way.
And like we were talking last night, when you're off the mark a little bit, you can pretty much forget about getting close pitches if you're not around the strike zone the whole time. I mean, throwing the ball where you want to. And all of a sudden you throw one that's a close pitch, you're probably not going to get the call from the home plate umpire, especially if you're a rookie and making your major league debut. Here's Johnson hitting at $125. And there is strike 1.
Well, pretty obvious they're taking the first pitch, so that's one you want to pour in there for a strike, for sure. Might not be that way the second time through the lineup. Definitely that way the first time through the lineup.
Tepish still from the stretch. And he finally strike 2 in the breaking ball. Well, he jumps ahead. 0-2 to Kelly Johnson. Pretty nice crowd on hand here tonight, and they are 100% behind Nick Tepish. Check swing, he went around, and a big strikeout for Tepish. So 3 walks in the inning, and the young man is able to come back and get the strikeout with the bases full. 3 left after an inning and a half, no score. At tonight's AT&T Twitter poll. And tonight's question is, which food item will you try when you come to the ballpark this season? And the potential answer, hashtag FS Boomstick, hashtag FS Beltray Buster. How about the FS Murfadilla? Or if you happen to not be able to pick any of them individually, how about hashtag all of them? Go to Twitter and pick out the answer that suits you best, and we'll give you an update on the things later on in the ball game. Neatly picked by Escobar, the shortstop, and Murph is out on a hard smash to short. A tailing, sinking line drive, and Murphy had a couple of rockets last night that were caught. He's not hitting in very good luck right now. The first out of the second inning is in the books, and that'll bring up Nelson Cruz. Nelly had his 6-game hitting streak snapped last night. 0 for 4 against the Rays. Inside corner. It is 0-2. Cruz over the years has hit very well against Hernandez / Carmona. 313 the average for Nelly. I wonder if you change your name, does that you get you start your ERA all over again?
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think it works that way. Got a new team and a new name, though. It's kind of a fresh start, but
yeah.
I think the stats are going to follow him.
Otherwise, you probably have a whole bunch of people switching names, huh?
Be like declaring bankruptcy.
Fourth in the American League with those 11 hits. Nelly Cruz trying to up that total right here. Inside, and the count is even at 2-2.
When Hernandez made his first start for Tampa Bay, it broke a string of over 1,200 games where Tampa Bay had not used a free agent as a starting pitcher. It broke a streak of over 1,000 games where they didn't have a starting pitcher over the age of 30. There's a team with young starting pitchers, almost entirely homegrown for a long time.
Ball 3 sailed away. Yeah, that's amazing. The free agent, okay, I can understand that, but under 30 or under 31, I guess it was, over 1,000 games. That's amazing.
It's pretty amazing.
Hernandez has gone to a full count. The payoff pitch coming. Fouled down and dropped by Molina. He'll toss on down to first base. And Cruz is the second out. 2 away. A.J. Pierzynski coming up. The fans Coca-Cola family packs are back for 2013. They offer savings of up to 45% on 4 tickets, hot dogs, and Cokes. Plus, you get 2 kids-zoned wristbands and 1 souvenir program. Order your Coca-Cola family pack for any non-premier game at TexasRangers.com/specials. First pitch to A.J. is off the outside corner. 1 ball, no strikes. The strikeout, by the way, of Cruz, the first punch-out rung up by Roberto Hernandez tonight. Hard hit, but right at the first baseman, Loney. Catches it shoelace high, and the Rangers are gone in order. So we play 2 at Rangers Ballpark in Arlington. Rays nothing, Rangers nothing.
Rays and Rangers, Buzz and Tom, special guests here, the Nick Tepesch family on hand. Penny, his mom, and Tom all the way down at the end, hanging on his seat at every pitch right there. But we're going to talk to Penny. What is going through your mind right now?
Just very excited for Nick. The first inning was really good, and the second one was good too, but just every pitch, you're just kind of right there with him.
Nick, growing up, is this what he wanted to do, play baseball all the way through?
All the way through. From the time he was probably 5 years old, he loved the game.
When did you hear, and how was it told to you that he made the Texas Rangers?
Well, I just come home from work, and he was talking on the phone to his dad, and he had just told his dad, and his dad handed the phone to me, and he had said a couple things, and then he said, I'm headed to Arlington. I said, Arlington? And he said, yeah, and he said, I've made it. So
there you go. Well,
yeah.
Congratulations. I know this is a big night for you guys. Got 27 family and friend members on hand. We'll let you get back to watching the game. Appreciate it, Penny. Thank you, Buzz.
All right, Jim, thank you. An exciting night for the whole Tepesch family. And Desmond Jennings with the first hit of the night off of Tepesch, a leadoff double to dead center field here in the third inning. So Jennings with good speed at second base. Matt Joyce up there now. Joyce a strikeout in the first inning. And he takes ball one a little bit low. Tepesch staring in for the sign, has the one he wants. Check swing, he went around, and the count is even. Scott Berry, by the way, calling the balls and strikes tonight. I don't think I told you that before. Hopefully the home plate umpire won't be as involved as he was in last night's ball game at the tail end. That's a little bit inside. It's 2-1 now. Tepesch had 16 pitches the first inning, 27 in the second. And the strike ball ratio is just about 50% right now. He went around, and the count is 2-2.
Struck out Joyce the first time on a curveball down and in, a little bit out of the strike zone. He's got him to attempt to check his swing at a couple of pitches in this at bat too. He tries that curveball down and in.
Here's a curve, stayed away from him, and the count is now full. But Nick, who walked 3 last inning, has run the count full to Joyce. If he's able to get aboard, it'll be in front of Ben Zobrist. And you're looking at some potential difficulty if you put a couple aboard ahead of the middlemen in this order. Pulled to the right side, that's going to get Jennings over to third base, and Joyce gets the job done. He grounds out to Kinsler. And Jennings now just 90 feet away for Zobrist.
Both Zobrist and Longoria are off to strong starts, batting average wise. Each hitting over 400. 385 right now for Zobrist.
These are the two guys that you really want to be careful with in this Tampa Bay order. And they're the ones that can do the damage with both the base hit and the long ball. I think we were talking last night about going through an order that you're going to face as a pitcher. You identify the 1 or 2 guys that you don't want to allow to beat you in a game situation. And Zobrist would be one, and Longoria would be the other on this Tampa Bay team. Just off the plate inside, 2 balls and no strikes.
Now, a lot of the pitches he's missing with are not that far out of the strike zone. He's being careful, as you would expect a young kid to do, who's got good command of his pitches. A lot of the sinkers are just a little bit low. That was a good fastball, maybe just a little bit in. He's not missing by a lot. Nice sinker, tailed down and away.
And it's 3-0 to Zobrist.
Well, either Zobrist or Longoria both of them are tough to pitch to. If Zobrist is on first base, at least you've got the potential for a double play to get out of the inning.
Right.
With Longoria up there.
3-0 pitch is a knee-high strike. Yeah, and for that reason, if nothing else, I would be very tempted. You see Longoria waiting to come to the plate. I'd be very tempted to try and make a real tough pitch right here. He did and got the strike. Zobrist couldn't check his swing all the way.
I think Zobrist was thinking he was going to get a decent pitch to hit right there.
Yep.
He was geared up to hit the fastball. Got a pitch out of the strike zone. That's not normally the pitch he would offer at, except I think in that situation he was a little bit more aggressive than normal.
Now the 3-2 pitch. Pulled on the ground. That's going to get the run home. Moreland will underhand to Tepesch, covering just in time to get Zobrist. But coming in to score is Desmond Jennings, and the Tampa Bay Rays take a 1-0 lead. Time for a Mazda game break. Here's John Radigan. John?
Yeah, Buzz, thanks very much. Toronto in Detroit, a little afternoon baseball today, and it's Miguel Cabrera, fourth inning with the 3-run bomb. It scores Austin Jackson and Torrey Hunter in front of him. Miggy's second 4-hit game in the last 3 days and his 100th career home run at Comerica. Tigers win 7-3, guys. Back to you.
All right, John, thank you. A lot of concern about how the Tigers started this year. What's going to happen to those guys? And all of a sudden you look up, Cabrera's taking charge, and Fielder had a big game the other night. They'll be okay.
Yeah, they've got a good team. On paper, they're as good as anybody.
Yep.
Added Torrey Hunter, getting Victor Martinez back.
Right.
They got some guys that can hit in that lineup.
Tepesch with the 0-1 pitch to Longoria. 2 hoppers picked off by Beltre. And that'll do it. The Rays turn the leadoff double by Jennings into a run. 1 run, 1 hit, nobody left. After 2.5, the Rays won, the Rangers nothing on Fox Sports Southwest. Rangers baseball on Fox Sports Southwest is brought to you by Ford. Take the EcoBoost Challenge at your Texas Ford dealer. Ford is the best in Texas. And by Jack in the Box. Try the new Hot Mess Burger. It's loaded with spicy jalapenos, onion rings, and gooey pepper jack cheese. The Ranger fans in the ball club will find a way to get their first base hit of the night against Roberto Hernandez. It'll be Mitch Moreland, Leonis Martin, and Ian Kinsler here in the third. Strike from Hernandez. Mitch, a 2-hit game last night. You can see he's had pretty good success in his career against Hernandez. And that fastball tails back to the inside corner. Very quickly 0-2.
Since 2006, there's only been 3 pitchers with a better ground ball ratio than Hernandez. That's Derek Lowe, Jake Westbrook, and Aaron Cook. And you can really see the movement. It's very easy to see on his sinker. That was a slider. And his ball really tails down and away to a left-hand hitter. And if he starts it off inside, he'll throw that pitch to the second strike that comes back and catches the inside corner.
The 1-2 offering. And that's low and inside to even the count. Mitch, a couple of home runs. runs, 3 RBI. The only other Ranger with more than 1 home run this year, Ian Kinsler, the team leader with 3. Now the 2-2. Rolled over on it, and a grounder out to Loney at first base. 1 away. Well, folks, the all-new $2 Powerball from the Texas Lottery has landed late today because Powerball has changed for the bigger. 1 out here in the 3rd inning for the Rangers. And Hernandez now has retired 7 straight. He will work to Leonis Martin with the bases empty. Martin just 1 for 13 off of that start. Bunts his way, trying to bunt his way aboard, and the ball just drifts off into foul territory. Good idea by Leonis.
Well, if he kept it fair, it was a base hit. Had a lot of spin on it, though. Once it hit the ground, it wasn't going to stay fair.
Well, the young center fielder coming back, and we'll try it again at no balls and a strike.
Yeah, while he's coming back, Buzz, we ought to mention something. As most people know, last year we had to curtail cookie talk.
Yep.
We just had too much in the way of sweets to talk about. And this year, we're going to have to make a little bit of a change on the birthday wishes. We started to get so many last year, and I anticipate the same thing this year. There's that one that comes back and catches the inside corner. We're going to have to restrict the birthday wishes this year to people over 80 years old.
Okay.
You know, Willard Scott used to do it for people over 100, so we'll be a little more lenient than that. But because of the large amount that we got, we're going to have to do that. So we apologize to everybody, especially people who have a birthday under 80. Yeah, well, sorry, Phil, you're not quite there yet. But I'm going to wish you a happy birthday whenever it is, just so I get that out of the way. We figure people that have lived to be 80 deserve to have their birthday mentioned.
Yeah.
Not that other people don't, but we just have to draw the line.
Just inside. It's now 2 balls, 2 strikes to Martin.
With that in mind, I missed one. I didn't get the notification. James Marshall was 88 years old on April 5th. James, I'm sorry I missed your birthday. A World War II veteran, decorated military man. Happy belated birthday.
And the count has gone full to Leonis Martin. So he's trying to get aboard with 1 out. Ian Kinsler waiting in the on-deck circle. Will be next. 1-0 Tampa Bay. The only base hit, a leadoff double last half inning. Inside ball 4, and Martin draws the walk. Good at that by Leonis. That is the first walk issued by Roberto Hernandez.
Hernandez has had a couple of good years. His best year was 2007. He went 19-8 in 2007. He had another year where his ERA was in the 3s. But he's had some forgettable years to go along with it. He's had years where he was demoted from the rotation. Had one year where he was a closer for a while. Blew about 4 or 5 saves in a row. When he has command of that sinker, he can be tough. Even when he's not having a great season, you catch him on the wrong day, you're going to have a hard time against him.
Kinsler was hit by the first pitch of the ball game. Got him in the left elbow, and he takes a breaking ball for strike 1.
Some people are probably saying, why did he change his name? He didn't start the season last year until August. He was arrested in the Dominican Republic in a false identity case. Wasn't the first ball player over there to have that particular problem. But he paid the price for it, and now he's back with another chance.
And ahead of the count here at no balls and 2 strikes to Ian Kinsler. Hernandez has always been the kind of pitcher you look at him and say, how can this guy not win all the time with the stuff that he has? Tossed to first, and Martin back. And I know he drove the Indians crazy at times because of that. They just couldn't figure it out. So he shouldn't be giving up as many hits as he is, or walks and that kind of thing. And just never really quite put it together for any length of time. Big right-hander's ready. Martin, the lead from first. 0-2 pitch, grounded toward the hole and through for a base hit. Martin stopping at second, and Ian Kinsler with the first Ranger hit of the night. Texas now with runners at first and second and one out for Elvis Andrus.
That's one of the things that'll happen to a sinker ball pitcher. You make a good pitch and you still give up a base hit. That was a good sinker. He got the ground ball, but Ian was able to find the hole between shortstop and third base. Watch, the ball is down. It's sinking in. Ian's just up there in that particular situation trying to make contact. Maybe cutting down on his swing just a little bit. Made the contact and found the hole.
Very good effort by Escobar, but being in a double play dip sometimes hurts you as far as your lateral range. That got Escobar that time. So Ian, the beneficiary of the pulled in infield just a bit. Now here's Elvis, who had a sacrifice bunt his first time. Get a look at how the Rays deploy themselves defensively against Elvis. Still very shallow in the outfield all the way around, and I'd like to see Elvis drive one the way we've seen him do it this year.
Yeah, they didn't pay the price for it last night, but sooner or later there's going to be a ball that normally would be caught go in for an extra base hit as shallow as they're playing.
Johnson and Jennings and Joyce, left, center, and right, all in well in front of where you would expect them to be. Martin the lead from second, Kinsler away from first.
And what they're probably saying with that alignment is based on their charts. The percentages favor this kind of an alignment because there'll be more balls hit on a line that you take a base hit away than there will be the balls hit over their head. It's all a matter of percentages. They'll give up the ball over their head because they think they're going to make up for it with balls caught. And last night it worked that way for them. They probably caught 2 or 3 balls that if they were deeper would have gone in for base hits. But here's a spot where you get one over their head and it's 2 runs. Maybe Elvis's first year you could play him like that, but not now. He drives the ball well to right center field. And the ball that Jennings hit that went over Martin's head looked like it got up in the jet stream a little bit and carried well.
0-2 pitch, and he went around. Couldn't check and swing that ball, really boring down and in.
A lot of movement on
Elvis. Second strikeout for Hernandez. 2 away, and here's Lance Berkman.
That ball actually moved from left to right, almost like a left-handed slider. That's the kind of movement that it had.
All right. So 2 away, Berkman, a fly ball to center back in the first inning. Lance trying to at least get the Rangers even in this ball game. They trail 1-0. The first pitch to him well inside for ball 1. Martin having a little laugh with Escobar out there. 2 outs has been a problem for Tampa Bay, and the Rangers have exploited the 2-out run scoring ability. 63% of the Rays runs that they've given up have come with 2 outs. We'll see if Berkman can't increase that number just a little bit right here. Takes that pitch off the inside corner. It's 2-0. Rangers last time, we mentioned, taking advantage of that. First time in 4 years they've scored 5 or more runs after 2 were out in a win. Hernandez about ready to throw his 20th pitch of the inning. Instead, he's going to get a visit from Jose Molina. The veteran catcher going out to have a chat with the big right-hander. Jose Molina very familiar with Lance Berkman over the years. I'm sure he didn't want Hernandez just to try and get back into the count and throw one down the middle. Lance been known to hit those a long way. Two balls, no strikes. Off speed, that's inside. 3-0. I don't suppose you even have to ask here if he has the green light, do you?
No, I think if you're the manager, you'd love for him to get a good pitch and hit it right here. One of your hottest hitters right now.
Yep.
And you don't have to worry about him really expanding the zone. Like some guys get the green light on 3-0. They're going to swing at a fastball no matter where it is.
They feel like they have to swing, don't they?
I don't think Lance is quite like that.
Yeah, a pretty good sinker right there. He takes it for a strike, and it's 3-1.
Yeah, and even though he might have had the green light right there, he just might not have felt that that was the pitch he wanted offer at.
You know, as you said many times, Tom, you get 3-0, you got to throw 3 strikes. So you're going to get at least one of them to be a very hittable pitch. Martin, the lead away from second. He's at the bottom of your screen. Kinsler over at first. And the 3-1 to Berkman. Inside corner. Well, he has made 2 quality pitches there. And the count is full. So with 2 outs, both Martin and Kinsler will be off and moving with the next pitch.
Borderline pitch caught the upper part of the strike zone. Not a real good pitch to hit 3-1. Now when it's 3-2, now you don't have a choice.
Hernandez sets. A check of the runners. They're on the move. 3-2 pitch. Luke to right center field. Falling in a hurry. Going out Zobrist. He can't get it. 1 run's home. Here comes Kinsler. He will score on a single by Berkman. The Rangers take a 2-1 lead.
Well, last night the Rangers got a run on a bloop double to left field by Adrian Beltre. Tonight they benefit with the runners moving. 3-2, 2 outs. They're running on the play. Lance Lofts a little blooper in the right center field that falls right between everybody. No one picks it up immediately. And Gary Pettis just kept waving Ian Kinsler all the way around. He scores without a throw. So the guy's on the run. Ian sees the ball, thinks he might have a chance to score. He's busting it all the way. There's Gary giving him the sign. And he scores easily. 2 nice little runs there.
You know, Gary Pettis is going to have to ice his arm down. He's been waving that thing around a lot in the early going here. That pitch all the way to the backstop and down to second goes Lance Berkman. And to classify that as a wild pitch may be an understatement. I think there might have been a little anger in that pitch about giving up the blooper.
Just tossed another man into scoring position, so drop another blooper in there and make it 3.
Well, and that's one of the MOs for Roberto Hernandez when he was Fausto Carmona, is that you could get under his skin a little bit when things didn't go exactly his way. He had a tendency to blow up a bit. Count is even now to Beltre at 1-1. Adrian, a ground ball to short, back in the first inning. Rangers with a couple of runs this inning on a couple of hits and a walk. And a chopper down to Longoria. He slips a bit, but still able to regain his balance and fire across the diamond. Side retirement at Lance Berkman, a 2-run single with 2 outs. Rangers take the lead 2-1 as we have finished 3 on Fox Southwest.
2-1 as we head to the fourth. We all know about the controversial ending to last night's 300th career save of Joe Nathan. Everyone involved acknowledges it was a fortuitous call. However, these things do have a way of evening themselves out.
There's going to be times we go out there and things are going to go against us. They usually tend to even out, especially when you play so many games like we do. You know, we're not going to see this as a huge break for us, you know, because there will be some that go against us. So we'll just take this as it is, as a win, another notch in the win column, and like I said, move on and try and do it again tonight.
Obviously, no one more upset than Rays manager Joe Madden. He had some words for the officiating crew last night. However, he did make an unbelievably kind gesture to Joe Nathan as he sent over the Rays lineup from last night with a nice note to Joe Nathan. So obviously, no misplaced anger on Joe Madden's part, guys.
All right, Emily, thank you. Yeah, one of those things that, you know, in baseball, you've been on both ends of it. If you've been in the game very long, and you understand that that doesn't diminish what the individual does.
Yeah, I think it was very thoughtful for him to do that, because I think what he probably thought afterwards was the play, the last pitch of the game, took away from the fact that he did have his 300th save.
Some things that have happened against the Tampa Bay Rays. Derek Jeter with his 3,000. Roger Clemens' 3,000th strikeout. 400th home run. Cal Ripken. And of course, Nathan's 300 last night. Rip and a miss by Shelley Duncan. Duncan up there after the leadoff single by James Loney. Duncan a ground ball to third. His first time to the plate tonight. Hits are even at 2 here this evening. Rangers leading 2-1.
Well, Nick's gotten a lot of ground balls, so he's in a good position to throw that sinker and try to get a double play ball.
That is hooked down the left field line and foul by 5 or 6 feet. Nice play by the ball girl down there. Very good play, young lady. Oh, and 2. The count to Duncan. Think they're having fun? Just a bit outside and low. It's 1 ball and 2 strikes now. Depish at the 65 pitch level as he works here in the 4th inning. Checks Loney at first. The 1-2 pitch. Got him swinging. Good breaking ball. That big hook. And Duncan is retired. That is strikeout number 3.
They got ahead of him, and when you're ahead in the count, the hitter's a little more prone to chasing a pitch. That looked like a good pitch to hit most of the way. He had a nice sharp break to it. Actually, if he didn't swing at it, it still would have been a strike. But the way he swung at a strike showed you how much he was fooled by that nice curveball.
The 1 gone. Now Junel Escobar will step in. Escobar walked in the 2nd inning. Rangers still looking for that double play grounder with Loney at first. And that could be it. Elvis, Kinsler, Maury. 6-4-3. Just the way it was drawn up, and the Tepesh family applauded, rightfully so. An 8-pitch inning. The Rays are gone. Rangers still on top by 1. Folks, we'd like to invite you to tune in each Saturday at 10 a.m. right here on Fox Sports Southwest for Chevy Hometown Kids. It's not about the score, it's about the experience. Young lady experiencing a pretty good evening out here as that young man is also. Very comfortable night, a temperature in the upper 70s. Wind briskly blowing in from right center field, and all of the nachos and other refreshments are in good supply. Here's David Murphy to start things off. He takes a sinker for strike one. Murphy hit a hot shot to short that Escobar fielded first time up. 0 for 1 for David. Slow hopper down to first. Loney will take it to the bag himself. He wins that race. And Murphy's retired, one away for Nelson Cruz. I would imagine when Hernandez is on, you could be very frustrated as a hitter beating that ball into the turf all night long.
It's hard to hit a ball that's moving that much going down. Not hard to hit it, it's just hard to hit it hard. Find any kind of a hole. Well, last inning when the Rangers scored the two hits, one was a ground ball that found a hole, the other was a blooper to right center field.
Nelson Cruz takes a knee-high strike. Cruz struck out his first time to the plate tonight. So batting average now at .379. Hernandez about ready to throw his 50th pitch of the night. Goes all the way to the backstop. Hernandez had 10 pitches in each of the first 2 innings. And then last inning, the Rangers got to him. He bumped him up to 26 pitches. Just the opposite of what Nick Tepesch has been able to do. Tepesch has been able to bring it down the last couple of frames. Pitch fouled straight down. It's a ball and 2 strikes. Nelly out of the batter's box. Trying to figure out what in the world he's going to do with Roberto Hernandez. Just able to get a piece of that. Hernandez over the years has not fared well against the Rangers. He has not beaten them since the 08 season. He's gone 0-5 in his last 9 starts. And career-wise, he's just 2-8 with a .537 earned run average in 12 starts. Inside, that got him on the left leg, and Nelly Cruz aboard. That's the second hit batter that Hernandez has had tonight.
Yeah, that's just how erratic the guy can be. First pitch of the game hit in. He's got 2 strikes on Nelly, throws that ball about 2 feet inside. He threw one over Adrian's head. Sometimes the ball just plain gets away from him. That ball's 3 feet inside.
The left thigh took the brunt of that shot. So 1 on and 1 out. And here's A.J. Pierzynski, who lined sharply to James Loney, the first baseman. Now Loney holding the bag against Nelly Cruz. Off speed, and that's a bit high for ball 1. A.J. with his first home run in a Ranger uniform in last night's game. He and Mitch Moreland going back-to-back and getting the Rangers out to a 3-1 lead at that time. The Rangers went on to win 5-4. Out of play to the left. 1 ball, 1 strike. Pierzynski, you can see over the last 4 ball games, hit safely in each of them at a .533 clip. Cruz the lead from first. Rays swung around a couple of steps to the right against Pierzynski. Pitch inside, and it's 2-1. AJ checking The third base coach, Gary Pettis, as is Nelly Cruz. It's a favored count if you were going to start Cruz on a hit and run or get something going. We'll see if Ron Washington has that idea. Cruz staying put. And a rip and a miss. It's 2-2. Hard part about trying to run against a guy like Hernandez, you're never sure when he's going to throw a strike. And if you want to do a hit and run or something like that where you just don't have a straight steal, tough to pick out a count where he's probably going to be in the strike zone. He may not know. Right-hander okays the sign, comes set. Check swing, call, strike 3. And Brzezinski asking home plate umpire Scott Berry, was that a swing? And Berry said, no, it was a strike. 2 gone. Strikeout number 3 for Hernandez.
It's one of those pitches that comes back.
Yep.
Good pitch. Looked like it was way inside, halfway to the plate. And that movement that he has brought it back to the inside corner. I wouldn't like to hit against this guy. You don't know whether he's going to hit the corner with a nasty sinker or drill you in the leg, throw it over your head.
Hit the corner of your kneecap.
That's not fun.
Swing and a miss by Mitch. It is 0-1. Morgan a ground out as he led off the 3rd inning. Rangers leading 2-1. There have only been 4 total hits in this ball game, 2 by each club. He tried that comeback fastball and missed with it. It is 1-1. One thing about throwing that pitch, as much as Hernandez does, if you miss by a little bit to where it tails back over the plate and a guy's seen it a few times that night, he's got a chance of driving it out of the ballpark. A left-handed hitter.
Are you making a call here, Buzz?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
I'll make it for you.
Okay. Had a pretty good rip at that breaking ball that stayed up.
Off to a slow start on the call. Haven't got one out of the infield yet. Got to keep remembering, though, Bobby Bragan's famous words. You can't hit the ball with a bat on your shoulder.
That's right.
What that translates to, you can't get the call right if you don't make the call.
Can't win the lottery if you don't play?
No, you can't. I got a better chance to make the call than the lottery, though, I think.
Moreland, it's a one-hopper right at Loney.
Although you wouldn't know
the
it by
bag.
that.
Yeah, and that will do it. No runs, no hits. The hit batter left stranded. We finished 4. Rangers 2, Rangers 1 on Fox Sports Southwest. The #1 source for live baseball everywhere you go. Available for iPhone, iPad, Android, BlackBerry 10. At Bat delivers Texas Rangers baseball with live audio, pitch tracking, stats, news, highlights, and a whole lot more. Text At Bat to 31826. Or you can visit TexasRangers.com for details. Well, joining us now, it's a fifth inning. Mark McLemore, co-host of Rangers Live. Mac, thanks for joining us.
Anytime.
Rangers in a couple of close ball games. Last night ended up being a little closer than we'd anticipated.
Yes, it was a little bit closer, but hey, they're doing a good job in winning close ball games, and that's one of the things that they're going to have to do.
You know, I think people really undersell how good this Tampa Bay club is as far as the nuts and bolts of playing baseball.
Right.
They're pretty competitive.
They're very competitive, and Joe Madden, for some reason, is able to get the best out of every club he has every year, no matter who's there or who's not.
Good play by Mitch Warland against Jose Molina.
I think Buzz, what answers that statement is you look at them on paper and they never really compare to a lot of other teams, but at the end of the season they're winning 90 games or more every year.
Yeah.
You always wonder if their lineup is going to score enough runs, but their starting pitching is always solid, and they put together a successful bullpen.
Yeah, don't you think playing in that park down there in the Trop is an advantage for them? Tough place. It's a tough place, I think, for opposing teams to go and expect to score a lot of runs with their pitching and the way the ball doesn't carry them.
Yeah, I think that with their starting pitching, they're going to keep the score down. They play good defense. They usually have some pretty good speed. And when you have low-scoring games and a team like that plays good defense too, yeah, they're tough, probably very tough to beat in that ballpark.
Joe Madden certainly exploits that. Pitch fouled away to the left, and the count to Kelly Johnson goes to 2 balls and a strike. Mac, Tom and I have been talking about the development of young players by Tampa Bay. I mean, primarily pitchers, but you can go to position players also. Seems like they do a great job of really developing their own in-house, I should say.
They do. You look at Desmond Jennings out in center field. He's one of those guys, and they seem to take their time with them. They don't rush them to the big leagues. They let them mature, and then they ease them into it. They may play every day. They may not start the season out playing every day, but they ease into it.
Tepic with a called third strike gets his 4th punch out of the evening as Kelly Johnson caught admiring this big hook.
Well, most of his strikeouts have come with his curveball. Joyce missed one in the first inning. Johnson swung and missed at one the first time up, took that one. And Duncan swung and missed. All 4 strikeouts have come on his curveball.
So 2 outs, base is empty. And here's Desmond Jennings looking at strike 1. Jennings 1 for 2 tonight. He has doubled and scored the only run of the night for Tampa Bay. That came as he led off the 3rd inning. Oh, he got fisted there, and a slow roller out to Elvis. That'll do it. A 1-2-3 frame, and probably the best inning on 9 pitches that Tepic has had tonight. Tepic's family happy. Rangers are happy. 2-1 as we go to the bottom of the 5th. Rangers fans, you can join Fox Sports Southwest at the Captain Morgan Club. That's inside Rangers Ballpark. Next Tuesday, watch the Rangers take on the Cubbies from Chicago and Wrigley Field. Doors open at 5:30. Mark McLemore will be there. Parking is free, and there's no ticket necessary. It's Fox Sports Southwest Rangers Live watch party, and you don't want to miss that. Leonis Martin starting off the Ranger fifth. Texas on top 2-1. Martin drew a walk as he got aboard with one out in that third inning. And he started that two-run uprising by Texas. Off speed, just a bit outside. It is 1-1. Mac, have you seen enough of Leonis Martin to get a pretty good feel for what he's going to turn into as far as an everyday center fielder?
I haven't just yet. I think defensively I probably got a better picture, and I think he's going to get better as the season goes on defensively. But I haven't seen him enough at bats to really get a gauge. I think he's got about 14 or 15 at bats right now, so that's not really enough to see how he's going to do or get an idea of how he's going to do in the season.
Now Martin had a great spring and then came into the regular season and he's 1 for 13. And you know, you wonder, okay, well, he had trouble last year when he came to the big leagues. Is he going to have the same kind of problem this year? And there are some guys that it just takes longer to assimilate at the major league level than others.
Yeah, you're right. And, you know, the thing that I look for is if a guy's overmatched. And he doesn't look like he's overmatched. He's just not getting the hits right now. And he's not being fooled very much, but except for that pitch. But, he's, you know, so he doesn't look bad at the plate. So that's the good thing.
And last time up, we saw him try to put a bunt down, and so he's thinking up there. You like to see that from a young player.
Yeah, you know, a lot of times a young player will come up and he'll just be frozen by the lights and the atmosphere and everything that's going on. But I don't think that's I don't think that's his problem at all right now.
2-2 pitch. Little looper into left field. It is a base hit. Longoria fields it. Martin a big turn at first, and he puts the brakes on. Well, that's one way to get out of a 1 for 13 slump. Now time now for a Boston game break with John Radigan. John.
Buzz, thanks very much. Yankees in Cleveland, and they have found the long ball. That's Robinson Cano with one in the fifth inning. A two-run bomb makes it 7-0 in New York. Cano, Youkilis, Overbay, and Ichiro all with homers. Yankees now leading at 13-1 in the eighth.
All right, John, thank you. Yeah, the MASH unit that is playing in New York. Well, they're getting some things going. Well, how about the DL that they have going for them, the Yankees?
Wow. That's incredible.
You got a $100 million DL.
Yeah. I wonder if they get a luxury tax on that, too. On their DL. They should.
Yeah, they will.
Yeah, I would think so. The one on, nobody out.
Trying to get their payroll down so they don't have to pay a luxury tax.
Yeah. Kinsler hit by a pitch his first time and then singled as Martin at first here with nobody out. Looks at strike one. Ian taking a look at Gary Pettis down at third. Pettis going through that series of signs, and they have been received by Leonis Martin and Ian Kinsler. Martin, of course, very good speed at first. He's bluffing a move and a fake bunt. Now the throw to first just in time. Getting back is Leonis Martin.
That was close. He got a long way off first base. A Pudge Rodriguez throw down there.
I think he caught Loney by surprise. Loney caught that ball way up in front of the bag, and he's able to get another step back to the bag. They might have Martin. The 0-2. The Rangers dodge a bullet there. Hard hit ball. It is foul. And not by much. The third base umpire, Marty Foster, who was the center of unwanted attention last night, making that call. He was standing right on top of the line.
Well, Longoria's pretty close to the bag, but he wouldn't have been able to stop that hot smash. That's a fair ball.
Yep, it sure is. Going over that bag where
That's
it hit.
Not even close.
Artie not having a good series.
Wow. Kind of like a player. When you have a series or a game like that, the ball finds you, the calls find you. There goes Martin. The pitch is fouled away by Kinsler. He almost had a big jump, and he'll have to retrace his steps. One more time. Right over the bag. You can see the shadow of the ball just going over the top of the bag.
So when you make contact out in front of the plate like that, and the ball almost hits the chalk behind the bag, it had to go over the bag to get to that point. It's easier to see for us from that angle than if you're right on the bag like that and it's coming right at you. You're worried about getting out of the way and seeing it at the same time. Not quite as easy to see it as it is from our view.
And Kinsler staying alive. Pretty good sinkers by Hernandez. Ian took one of those sinkers and hit it through the hole on the left side his last time up. Hernandez now approaching 75 pitches, 73, and get a look at the defense for Tampa Bay. Both Zobrist and the shortstop Escobar up a step or so, a double play depth. Martin stepping off that lead, and now Hernandez steps back off so they couldn't see the signs. So you have Jose Molina come out and tell him what he's going to throw. Dave Anderson, the first base coach, having a little chat with Leonys Martin. Last night's ball game, a 5-4 affair, and it took 3 hours and 15 minutes to play, and this one is not setting any speed records either. A lot of pitches, a lot of time between pitches in the early going of this ball game. Now we're set to work. And again, the 0-2. Ian back in, and you look at the last 4 ball games, and a lot of those 6 hits have been big hits. 3-run home run comes to mind. The 2-run single to right field comes to mind. Mac, when you watch a guy like Ian, who basically is a pull hitter, I mean, he's a severe pull hitter, and all of a sudden he starts driving the ball the other way and is able to, what kind of an adjustment is he making to allow that to happen?
Well, number one, he's not trying to spin and hit everything out of the ballpark. He's cut down on his swing a little bit, I think. And there's sometimes, he'll, depending on the count and the situation, he'll still take that big cut. But right now, he's just trying to put the ball in play and drive it somewhere.
There goes Martin in the chopper to third. Longoria has only 1 play. That's over to Loney. Kinsler is retired, but Leonys Martin now in scoring position with 1 out, and Elvis Andrus coming up. Well, Kinsler now 1 for 2 as he makes that right-hand turn at first base. And it sounds so simple. Is well, why don't all hitters make that adjustment, or why doesn't Ian do that all the time? It doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't quite work that way, and especially with the way that they pitch Ian. They try to bust him in. Even though he's a pull hitter, they try to get in and jam him, and sometimes it works. And so when you're getting a lot of pitches inside, it's tough to try and take them the other way, unless you have an inside-out swing, and Kins does not have that.
Up the middle, into center field, a base hit. Around third, being waved home is Leonys Martin, and Elvis Andrus, another big RBI base hit. The Rangers lead 3-1.
The ball was hit that hard, but they both found a hole. Martin dropped a little blooper into left field, and Elvis, who's got some soft hits coming with as many line drives as he's had caught, he got jammed a little bit. Hit a ground ball that looked like it was tailing away from Escobar. Had a little spin on it, snuck it into center field for a run. I think the one thing, Buzz, that not many big league hitters do today is make any kind of concession when they have 2 strikes. They tend to take the same strike 0-2 that they take 3-1. But I agree with Mac. I think Ian has cut down on his swing a little bit in both the last 2 at-bats with 2 strikes, just trying to kind of play pepper and put the ball in play. And he got a base hit to left field one time and hit the ground ball to third base the other time.
Tom, you mentioned something the other night. We were talking about Ted Williams and his philosophy. He said that Ted was always on guys about choking up a little bit on the bat.
Yeah,
you don't see guys choke up anymore.
Not many guys choke up. A lot of guys hold the bat down in the end. But you know, there's one of the greatest hitters, power hitters of all time, and he choked up on the bat. He felt like he had better control of the bat when he choked up. You know, I was reading an article in a magazine about Joey Votto, and Joey Votto makes concessions to the pitchers when he goes from no strikes to 1 strike and then 2 strikes. He cuts down a little bit and concedes a little bit to the pitcher every time he gets a strike. Meaning he's not trying to think extra base hit when he gets behind in the count. He's just trying to put the ball in play. Working pretty good for him.
Yeah. 1 ball, no strikes to count. Lance Berkman, big 2-run single. There goes Elvis. The pitch out. The throw to second is not in time. And Andrews with the stolen base in scoring position for Berkman. I tell you what, if you steal with Jose Molina back there on a pitch that he can handle as well as he did, you've gotten a good jump.
It was a great jump by Elvis. It almost looks like he's running track there with the way that he's set up to go. Great jump, slides to the back part of the bag.
Earlier today, Elvis and, well, all the guys, all the base runners were out there working with Gary Pettis on their leads and their first couple of steps in their steal situation. And Gary said, well, it's, you know, it's something we just do every once in a while. It's kind of a reminder to let's stay at it. Berkman takes a strike.
Yeah, that's one of those things you want to stay on top of and not let it, you know, slip or slide. Because if you do, and all of a sudden a stolen base situation comes up and you haven't really worked on it, and your first couple of steps are kind of lazy, you're going to get thrown out. And that's really where you steal the base at, those first 2 or 3 steps, getting that jump, that all-important jump.
Berkman a rip and a miss, and it's 2-2. Well, I would think it's probably like anything in the swing or pitchers throwing strikes. If you don't work on it, you're going to get to a point where you lose the feel for how to do it. And then you're in no man's land if you haven't worked on it.
You're right. You'd be amazed at how many teams don't work on it. And I think, you know, the Rangers are one of the few teams that consistently work on that throughout the course of the year, not just in spring training.
Pitch inside, the count with Elvis at second has gone full to Berkman. Lance hit the number 3 slot. He'll be followed, according to Ron Washington, by Adrian Beltre. Elvis getting the lead right at the bottom of your screen. Payoff pitch to right center field. Long run for Joyce. He dives and can't get it. Elvis had to go back to the bag, and he thought it was going to be caught. So he's only able to advance 90 feet. But Berkman, if you could say a seeing eye high line drive, that's what it was. Just avoiding the dive by Joyce.
Not sure what Joyce. You know that Joyce moved away from the ball instead of making an angle right for the ball. What do you see, Matt?
A very bad angle taken right there. He's going back, comes across, goes back again, and then tries to cut back to it. And
it looked like if he went right straight at the ball, right here, if he goes right straight at the ball, he could catch it.
Make a play.
He just stayed behind the ball, and the ball bounced in front of him.
Yeah, it looked like he thought it was going to carry out to the gap a little bit more.
Yeah. Is that great circle route we hear about?
That would be correct. That would be the one.
Good. Well, folks, I was wondering what it looked like. Now I know what it looks like. Jim Hickey out there to have a chat with his beleaguered battery at the moment. Take a look at the Ford leaderboard, and tonight we're going to take a look at the league leaders for on-base percentage. Guess who's at the top? Lance Berkman coming in at .571, and he has been aboard 2 of the 3 times he's come to the plate tonight.
Well, when you're going well, those balls tend to fall in. Lance got a 2-run single on a blooper over second, and a soft line drive to right for another single. So when you're hot, you're hot. They tend to fall in. All 5 of the Ranger hits have really been of the soft variety. A couple of ground balls through the infield and 3 bloopers to the outfield.
Here's Beltre, seeing if he can't advance the Ranger cause here. It's already 3-1. And Adrian takes strike 1 at the knees. Runners at first and third. Beltre has grounded out both times up tonight. against Roberto Hernandez. Elvis Andrus, the runner at third. And over at first, Lance Berkman. Hernandez set a check of the runners. That is fouled back just below us. And the count moves to 0-2. Runners in scoring position. The Rangers 281 for the season. 3 for 7 tonight, including the RBI single by that man at third base, Elvis Andrus. Molina flashing the side out. Hernandez agrees with him. Hard hit. Look out, Elvis.
Not a good spot for Elvis to be right now.
Well, that expression on his face to tell you he's not real thrilled about it.
It looks like he got out of the way. That's really not the case. The ball just didn't hit him. He's too close to get out of the way on a hard hit ball like that.
Not much you can do when you're there.
No.
Huh? Now when a guy smokes one. Oof. See, now you know how pitchers feel all the time. That's how far we are when we let go of the ball from the hitter. To the right side. Going to be tough to turn to. They can't. It's going to score a run as Elvis comes down the line and Beltre with the ground out. Gets the RBI. It is 4-1 for Rangers. Not an artistic success, but it is a point on the scoreboard.
Nice piece of hitting by Beltre just to put the ball in play, not hit into a double play, get that run across the board. Every run counts in these situations. Not the ideal pitch, but a pitch too close to take. It might have been called strike 3.
So Berkman advances to second. He's there with 2 outs now. And David Murphy, 0 for 2, goes after the first pitch and pops it up. Right side of the infield. James Loney, the first baseman, is underneath. Makes the catch, and that'll do it. A couple of runs will come across. Rangers leading 4-1. And Mac, thanks very much for joining us. We will see you after the ball game on Rangers Live.
All right, guys.
Fox Sports Southwest is brought to you by Mazda. We believe if it's not worth driving, it's not worth building. The Rangers have built a 4-1 lead behind Nick Tepesch as we head to inning number 6. Ranger fans on hand here tonight. Better than 27,000 last night. It looks like tonight's quite a bit bigger than that crowd. Here again seeing the Rangers take a lead into the latter stages of the ball game. Matt Joyce, who is 0 for 2 against Nick Tepesch, looks at that breaking ball for strike 1. Tepesch working quickly, misses low and in.
Well, ever since he walked Molina to load the bases with 3 walks in the second inning, Nick has worked quickly, pitched confidently, and thrown strikes.
Chopper off the plate. It's going to be a tough play Nice play by Kinsler. A sidearm quick release. And Joyce is retired. And fortunately, the ball came up about waist high for Ian. That made it a little bit easier.
Yeah, if he had to catch it right off the ground, it would have been tougher. Well, Mike Maddox came out to talk to Nick during that inning. Not sure exactly what he said to him, but I think Nick has been much more aggressive in the strike zone than he was in the second inning.
Yeah, I'm sure it had something to do with being more aggressive for a young guy. I mean, it's all a learning experience for Nick Tepesch. Now, he knows a lot about pitching, but not at this level, and that's what the job of any pitching coach is to educate the guys and what they need to expect and what they need to do at the big league level. And Mike Maddox, one of the best at doing that.
Buzz, wouldn't you think that for a young pitcher, the first thing he has to do is gain confidence that the stuff he has is good enough to get big league hitters out? I guess you don't know until you go out there. Everybody else might have a pretty good feel for it, but until you go out and show yourself that your stuff is good enough to get those hitters out.
That's the man who is responsible for signing Nick Tepesch. That's Dustin Smith.
He's the only one in the ballpark as nervous as Nick's parents.
Slow roller to the right side. And a nice underhand flip to Tepesch covering. That's out number 2. Now here's Jimmy John's freaky fast delivery of the game. And Nick Tepesch, a freaky fast start to his big league career here tonight. He has been very good striking out. As Matt Joyce, the second man he faced. He has 4 strikeouts tonight.
The other thing that Tepesch has done since Jennings hit the soft line drive to second to lead off the game, he hasn't given up a ball in the air for an out. It's either been a strikeout, and he's had 4 of them. Every other out's been on a ground ball. Most of them have not been hit that hard, especially look at the ones hit this inning. So he's shown the ability to get ground balls at a high rate in this game. Really cut down his pitch count, too.
Pitch to Longoria and gets him off the plate with that inside fastball.
He was around 40 pitches through 2 innings. He has a chance to be just a little over that for the next 4 innings.
Yeah, third inning, he cut it down to 16 from 27. There's a swing and a foul tip.
Good sinker right there, 91 miles an hour.
Fourth inning, Tepesch only needed 8 pitches, and then the 5th inning, only 9 pitches.
So probably hadn't thrown much more than that this inning.
Nope. Young man is really going after it.
Well, we saw him pitch in spring training, Buzz, and both of us have remarked to each other between innings that he's throwing the ball better tonight than we saw him throw. Not that he threw badly in spring training, but it's been more impressive tonight.
That was the game in Las Vegas, I believe, against the Cubs that we saw him the first time anyway. And, yeah, this is superior to that outing.
That's a pretty good pitch right there. Close pitch to take.
Longoria, a walk and a ground out.
Good movement on it. Tailed a little bit out of the strike zone.
And that is just wide, so the count has gone full. Evan Longoria hitting in the number 4 slot. Trying to get aboard with 2 outs. James Loney, the first baseman, would be next. Tepesch in the payoff pitch. Beltre sets himself, and it's a 1-2-3 inning. And Tepesch now has retired 7 straight hitters. 5.5 in the books. Rangers 4, Rays 1 on Fox Sports Southwest. That's the sixth inning. That means it's time for the Sonic Slam inning, brought to you by Sonic. Tonight, the jackpot is worth $500 and dinner for two at Sonic Drive-In. Rangers tonight are hitting for Jack Blake from Carthage, Texas. If a Ranger hits a grand slam during the inning, Jack Blake from Carthage will win $25,000. You can register at any participating Sonic restaurant. Nelson Cruz starting things off against Roberto Hernandez. A rip and a miss, and Yelly down on the count, no balls and 2 strikes. Cruz hit by a pitch on a 1-2 pitch last time up. Struck out his first time to the plate. Rangers leading 4-1. They have out hit the Rays 5-2, and Cruz a wave and a miss. He is gone. And Hernandez with his 4th strikeout starts the 6th by fanning Cruz.
Well, he's had good stuff tonight. He's been, I guess you'd have to say, he's been a little erratic with his control. But at the same time, if you look at the Rangers' 5 hits, really none of them have been hit hard. They've kind of dinked them to death in this game for 4 runs. But they've taken advantage of their opportunities. But you'd have to say, watching him pitch tonight, he's been tough to hit.
Yeah. A.J. Pierzynski fouls that first pitch off. A.J. 0 for 2 tonight. Hernandez with the 0-1. Pierzynski, first time up, line sharply to James Loney at first base. That after having a 3-hit game last night. Up the middle, but that's where Junel Escobar, the shortstop, is positioned. 2 gone here in the Rangers' 6th inning. Now Mitch Moreland will step up. Pitch tonight. Twice is grounded out to the first baseman, Loney. Rangers and Rays finishing up this 3-game series tomorrow. It'll be a 1 o'clock start. Derek Holland and the fine young left-hander Matt Moore. Battle of southpaws.
Good matchup. Derek's been throwing the ball really well, and Matt Moore has some of the best stuff in the league. Great arm. Pitched an excellent game against the Rangers in the playoffs a couple of years ago.
After tomorrow afternoon's ball game, Rangers back on the road for 7 games. The 4 in Seattle. That'll start off. Matt Harrison is scheduled to start on Thursday night. That is still up in the air a little bit. Felix Hernandez will be the mound opponent. Matt bothered recently by a back problem. That's off-speed pitch outside. And the count is 2-1 now to Mitch Moreland. You know, John Daniels saying today that they're going to be rather conservative as far as how they use Matt Harrison. He said if we can push him back a couple of days and he's going to feel completely 100%, we'll do that. Otherwise, he's probably going to the disabled list. Or the way he put it, we'll be extremely cautious with him early in the season.
Yep, there's a lot of starts left and a lot of games left. You don't want to get your opening day starter hurt before the season even gets underway.
Three and 1, the count to Moreland. Sky to center field. Desmond Jennings tracking this one as the wind pushes it back toward the infield. And that'll do it. Rangers go down in order in the 6th. On to the 7th inning we go. It's the Rangers 4, the Rays 1 on Fox Sports Southwest. Tepish has been outstanding. 6 innings of work, just 2 hits for the 24-year-old right-hander, giving up 1 run, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. All 3 of those walks coming in that second frame. Berkman, meanwhile, 2 for 3, a couple of runs driven in. Rangers have made the most of their 5 hits here tonight. Dave Magadan has seen his ball club again getting the key 2-out hit, driving in some very important runs against Tampa Bay. So Tepish back to the hill. He will face Loney, Duncan, and Escobar here in the 7th inning. James Loney stepping to the plate, 1 for 2. The first pitch, a breaking ball in the back door for strike 1. 13 groundouts, 1 flyout, and 4 strikeouts for Nick Tepish. This will be pitch number 90 this evening. Slow roller hit to the right side. Moreland underhands to Tepish, and another ground ball, another out.
3 out of the last 4 balls have been hit just like that.
Let's go down and say hello to Emily Jones again, Em.
Well, gentlemen, as we have learned over the last few years, Ron Washington often has a way with words, and sometimes he knows when to just not say anything. I asked him what he was going to say today to Nick Tepish as he prepared for his major league debut, and he said, you know what, I'm not going to say anything to him today. He's got enough going on in his head. Yesterday when he got here, I told him he belonged. That's all he needs to know. I'm going to leave him be today. It seems to have worked so far in his major league debut.
Yeah, I think you could say that. And Nick's dad sitting down there, not exactly a bundle of nerves on the outside, and neither is his son, acquitting himself very nicely.
Yeah, well, looking at the dad, I guess you can see where his demeanor on the mound comes from. I'm guessing the dad's feeling a lot differently inside than he's showing outwardly.
I would bet, yeah.
Not much doubt about that.
27 family and friends for the Tepish group here tonight. A rip and a miss by Duncan, and the count moves to 1-1. Duncan 0 for 2, a strikeout and a ground out. Lines this one down the left field line, but it hooks and goes 1 hop off the seats. Back into play as David Murphy over there tosses the souvenir into the stands.
The last time up, Duncan's second strike was almost the exact same ball. And then the next pitch after was a good curveball that he swung and missed at.
It worked once, you might as well try it again, huh?
Go with the curveball right here. From the same one you threw him last time.
A little harder.
More of a cutter there.
Yeah, that was a cutter. Duncan, well, you can't ask Shelley Duncan. I'm not sure he saw that one.
Just a good assortment of pitches. Oh, since the second inning, he's been pounding that strike zone, too.
That's strikeout number 5. And he now has retired 9 straight. Make that 10 straight. Duncan started that streak, and now with 2 outs, Yunel Escobar will come to the plate for his 3rd at bat. He is 0 for 1 with a walk, and he's going to be 0 for 2 as he got that one right on his right fist. Side retired in order. Very impressive for Nick Tepish. And the very proud applause from the Nick Tepish family. 4-1 Texas. It's stretch time at Rangers Ballpark. fans, when you come out to the Rangers ballpark, Lexus Valet parking is available for every Rangers home game, and Lexus Valet services is complimentary for drivers of Lexus vehicles, space permitting. For real-time updates on the availability of valet service at each location, go to TexasRangers.com/valet or follow @TexasRangersInfo on Twitter, @RangersInfo on Twitter. Leonis Martin starting things off. Nick Tepesh on the Ranger bench, and I would think the way he looks, he has no intention of coming out of this ballgame.
Nope.
If he were asked.
No one warming up the bullpen, so I'm on board with you there.
Yeah.
The way he's mowed down the last 10 or 11 hitters. Got to keep riding that one.
Martin fouling it off. It is no balls and 2 strikes.
Martin's had a lot to do with the 4 runs. He walked and scored a run. Base hit and scored a run. 1 in the 3rd, 1 in the 5th.
And those are the 2 innings the Rangers have done their damage. 2 runs in the 3rd, 2 runs in the 5th. So Leonis down at the bottom of that order, getting some things going. And he is going to be 2 for 2 as he shoots that through the hole on the right side.
Well, a few balls hit right on the screws today.
It's time for a Mazda game break. Here's John Radigan. John?
Hey, Buzz, yeah, thanks very much. We'll be back here with you tomorrow afternoon as the Rangers play the finale of this series. If you remember the playoffs from a couple of years ago, you remember what Matt Moore can do. If you remember opening day, you remember what Derek Holland can do. It should be a great pitching matchup. 2 young pitchers. Afternoon baseball here at the ballpark and right here on Fox. Rangers Live will get you started at 12:30 tomorrow, guys.
All right, John, thank you. So 1 on, nobody out. And Ian Kinsler takes strike 1. Got some action going out in the left field bullpen for the Rays. This is the first action for either team tonight. Kins 1 out of 2 this evening. He singled and scored in the 3rd inning. He was also hit by a pitch and grounded to short. Martin with good speed at first, and he draws a throw back standing. Jake McGee, the left-hander, is up and loosening out in the Rays bullpen. Roberto Hernandez just over the 100 pitch mark. Now he's at 102 as he works to Kinsler here in the 7th inning. Here goes Martin. The pitch is line foul. Just pulling the trigger a shade too early. Kins gives that fan a souvenir.
I didn't see if he caught that or not. He looks like one of the few people in the stands that could catch a ball bare. I wouldn't want to arm wrestle that guy.
No.
Whoa.
Puts a death grip on that baseball. He's going to squeeze
that ball stopped and went the other way when it got near him.
Squeeze the cork right out of it.
I think he did barehand that ball. Talking about the other day, if it comes at you, get out of the way. There's only a handful of people that can catch one.
And at Kinsler, a line drive base hit. Around second, headed for 3rd is Martin. Going to second is Kinsler to throw. He is out at second base. Ian trying to sneak in behind Martin, who was going 1st to 3rd. And the left fielder, Kelly Johnson, shot him down.
Well, most of the time as the runner, when you see the guy go in front of the left fielder from 2nd to 3rd, that's where the throw is going to go. But that was a smart play by Johnson. He knew he couldn't get Martin. And with Ian trying to sneak into second base on the play, Johnson makes a nice throw. It's an important out. Never even was tempted to throw it to 3rd. A lot of guys get suckered into that throw.
Somebody must have been yelling at him, alerting him to where to throw the ball, because you're right, he did not even look at 3rd base. The conference on the mound giving Jake McGee out there in left field a little more chance to get loose. And now the infield will pull all the way in with Leonis Martin at 3rd base and 1 out. Elvis Andrus, the hitter. Elvis last time up delivered a very big RBI single to center field.
That's that aggressive base running that Gary Pettis and Ron Washington are stressing. Occasionally you're going to have someone thrown out, but you know that's a small price to pay for the extra bases you pick up.
Slow tapper down to 3rd, charging on Goya. The only play he has is the 1st, and just does get Elvis.
That makes a great play to get the out at 1st base. He wanted to come home, but he didn't have a play, didn't have an angle that he could get the ball to Molina with. so he still had time to make a nice throw. He's a very good fielder.
So Elvis with his second RBI of the night, and the Ranger lead is now 5-1.
The Rangers done a great job of putting the ball in play and picking up runs. Second softly hit ground ball out. One by Beltre, one by Elvis that's gotten an RBI.
A good jump by Leonis Martin, too, from third base. That's that contact play, and he's going on contact. Did a great job of just putting his head down and charging home. So very much like last night, Rangers with a 5-1 lead here in the 7th inning. Base is empty with 2 away. Lance Berkman is the hitter. Berkman 2 for 3 tonight with a pair of runs driven in. Berkman now 7 RBI for the season. On the outside corner, it is 1-1. Well, Leonis Martin with 3 runs scored tonight. He's 2 for 2 with a walk. And he has scored all 3 times that he's been on base. Check swing, he went around. It's a ball and 2 strikes. We talked before about Ron Washington, the ability to have a guy like Martin or Gentry hitting a number 9 slot, whoever's playing center field for you, and coupling that with Kinsler and Andrews at the top of the order. You turn that order over and it gives you a lot of opportunities. To right center field, that's going to plug the gap and go to the wall. Well, Beltre has just worn that gap in right center field out as he cruises into second with a 2-out double. Or Berkman, I should say.
Yeah, the last one that Lance hit out there was kind of a soft line drive that fell near Joyce. This one was a rope. This one was in the gap to second and left the bat. Line shot 3 hits for Lance tonight. The fastball that moves out toward the middle of the plate puts a charge in that one.
So Berkman, a pair of singles and a double, gets himself into scoring position. They're going to walk Adrian Beltre, and this will probably be the last act for Roberto Hernandez in this game, with the lefty Jake McGee loosening and David Murphy in the on-deck circle. Joe Madden looking on at things, and for the second straight night now, he's seen his team fall behind by 4 runs in the latter stages of the game. There's McGee getting in his final warm-up tosses. Ball 3 is outside. So this will put runners at first and second with 2 outs. Already a run across in the inning. And the 4th wide one. Adrian trotting down to first, and here comes Joe Matt. He singles immediately to the bullpen. He wants Jake McGee to come in and face David Murphy. So we'll take a short timeout, and as the infielders come in to be with Roberto Hernandez, Joe Madden making his way. And here comes Jake McGee. We'll be back right after this on Fox Sports Southwest.
Play where you have all these outstanding food items. Last night it was the Beltray Buster. Casey, what do we have tonight?
Well, I don't know if you noticed this great big Mongolian grill behind us, but instead of Mongolian food, we have ballpark favorites, except it's not an actual ballpark favorite. It's a huge ballpark favorite. If you'll see right here, we got the Murphadilla.
Whoa.
Look how big that is right there. This is named after David Murphy, of course, one of our great outfielders. We got pico de gallo, we got shredded brisket, we got flatbread with cheese in it, and of course it sits on a bed of Doritos.
Nice. All right, we got one guy I know can polish it off in the truck. That is producer Kurt Stryker coming to you. You can add that to the Beltray Buster, Kurt.
Wow.
Holy cow.
I want to know who designed those things. I can see how they make them, but who sat down at the drawing board and designed those?
Chances are it wasn't somebody real thin.
I got to go with the Murphadilla myself.
Yeah, that looks pretty good.
Looking at the three of them, that would be my favorite.
How about going with Jake McGee?
Yeah, I can handle Jake McGee. This kid's got good stuff. He gave up a bunch of runs in his first outing in Baltimore. That's why the numbers look like they are, but he's a lefty with a great arm. He'll tune it up there at 95 miles an hour. It'll take him a while to get the ERA down, but it'll be down by the time the end of the year's over. This guy's got good stuff.
The 26-year-old lefty facing David Murphy. And Murphy, a good rip at that first fastball at 97 miles an hour. Murphy 0 for 3 tonight. A couple of groundouts and a pop out. Rangers leading 5-1. They have scored a single run so far in this inning. They have runners at first and second. Berkman at second. Beltray at first. And David Murphy trying to increase the Ranger lead. Craig Gentry into the ball game as the runner for Lance Berkman. Tough play for Loney, and knocks it down. It's going to be a foot race. It is not in time. Here comes Gentry. He beats the throw home to score.
Boy, the Rangers they've snuck some runs in tonight, boy. They get the base runners. That's the third run they've scored on a softly hit ground ball to the infield. And there's the pinch runner. Nice strategic move by Walsh right there. Pick up an extra run. Not that Lance couldn't have done it, but you know Gentry's got a great chance of doing it. As soon as he threw that ball, it was a run.
Boy, now that is manufacturing a run right there. That's going to be an error on Loney. Scored an error all the way and no RBI. But Gentry putting his head down, coming around third, and he smoked it on in home. It is 6-1. And now Nelly Cruz takes outside for ball one. Cruz tonight 0 for 2. A pair of strikeouts, is also hit by a pitch. And McGee missing high and inside. Count moves to 2-0. Cruz probably happy to see anybody other than Roberto Hernandez tonight. He had a tough time. A lot of swings that are not Nelly Cruz-like against the right-hander. Takes a belt-high strike there, and it's 2-1. Well, Tampa Bay, who had come into this series having not had an error charged to them all year, have made one in each of the first two games. Beltray the lead from second. Murphy at first. 2-1 pitch. Little number, tough play. McGee off balance throw, not in time. Cruz able to leg it out.
It's just one of those games where if you're Joe Madden, you just wonder how many times can the Rangers get on base in the same way. Put the ball in play and good things can happen, and that's pretty much been the case for the Rangers since the third inning. Finding a lot of holes and making a lot of breaks on their own with good base running.
Well, the base is full of Rangers now. McGee did all he could. He couldn't get enough on the throw. And Nelly Cruz getting out of the box quickly, able to leg it out. But 9 hits now for the Rangers. And with 2 outs, A.J. Pierzynski will try and keep it going. A.J. 0 for 3 tonight. lined out, struck out, and grounded out. Lefty versus lefty, and the first pitch is low and inside for ball one. Beltre, the runner at third. He was intentionally walked. David Murphy hit that ball that turned into an error by Loney. Murph now at second, and on at first after the infield single is Nelly Cruz. That pitch fouled away to the left, and the count is even to Brzezinski and a ball and a strike. Crowd of 31,398 on hand here this evening. McGee comes set. And a ground ball out to Zobrist. On to first. That will do it for the Rangers, but they do score a couple more times. There was a very big error. They leave the bases full. We're going to the eighth. The Rangers 6, the Rays 1 on Fox Sports Southwest. Take a look now at the results from our AT&T Twitter poll tonight. Question, when you're at the ballpark this season, which food item will you try? And the winner of the night, all of them. I like that. A lot of daring folks. Boomstick and Murfadilla were tied for second.
What'd be your number one, Buzz?
I'd have to go with that Murfadilla.
Yeah.
That looks pretty good to me.
I'd go Murfadilla, Beltre Buster, Boomstick, in that order.
Okay, I buy that. I might reverse the last two.
And you know what? I'd probably go with try all three of them. Now, I would not come close to eating all three of them.
Right.
I'd like to take, a little snack out of each one.
Robbie Ross getting ready in support of Nick Tepesch out of the Ranger bullpen. Tepesch about ready to throw his 98th pitch of the night. And Molina skies one, shallow right center field.
Oh, a ball in the air.
Yep.
First ball in the air for an out since Jennings led up the game.
As Cruz makes that grab, that is out number one. And that is 12 straight now, set down by Nick Tepesch and company. Last base runner that the Rays had was James Loney, who led off the fourth inning with a single. And he was erased 2 hitters later on a double play.
Here he is, one out in the 8th inning. He hasn't thrown 100 pitches yet, and that's after a lot of pitches through 2 innings.
Ball one. Yeah, that's 43 pitches in the first 2 innings.
Was it?
Yeah.
About 56 pitches for the next 5+.
It's a little bit low, and it's 2-0 now to Kelly Johnson. Johnson has struck out both times that he faced Tepesch tonight. Foul tip. It's 2-1. Now Tepe's able to, after the third inning, he had 16 pitches in the third inning. He was able to go 8 pitches, 9 pitches, 12 pitches, and 7 pitches in the next 4 innings. That's pretty efficient. There's a strike. 2-2 now.
I think the question after the game would be, what did Mike Maddox say to you when he came out there? Because it's been a nice performance. Another weakly hit ground ball. Uh-oh.
That's going to be a tough play, and just a little bit of indecision on Tepe's part. And that's going to allow Kelly Johnson to reach with a base hit.
Yeah, Nick went after the ball. He wanted to wait for the hop, and then it just died and broke toward the line. And his first reaction was to let the ball roll foul. Then he realized that wasn't going to happen. And then by the time he decided to pick it up, it was too late. Might have had a play if he just went after it quickly.
Yeah.
But I think it fooled him right here when it just kind of died and rolled toward the line instead of coming somewhat toward him.
Yeah, and that's mostly just not being familiar with the playing surface here, what it's going to do. And this is the first time that he has pitched in this ballpark. Ground ball over the bag, a fair ball down the third baseline. Johnson into third, going into second is Desmond Jennings. So he has his second double of the night. And all of a sudden the Rays with runners at second and third and 1 out. And the big guy's coming up. And here comes Ron Washington. So a nice hand, the 31,000 plus for Nick Tepe. He really pitched well tonight, and Ron Washington, a slow walk out to the mound, will let the young man know that as soon as he gets out there. Watch always making sure that he imparts what he has to say before he lets him know what his decision is, whether he's staying in or coming out. And that's going to do it. Nice job, young man. You did more than we asked you to do, and we appreciate that. A great hand for Nick Tepe in his major league debut at 24 years of age. A standing O as he limited the Rays to just 1 run so far in 7+ innings. No, with 1 out, 2 runners on. Robbie Ross coming in. We'll take a timeout on Fox Sports. Gary Pettis and company looking on. Rangers leading 6-1, and AT&T would like to say that tomorrow afternoon we'll be with you at 1 o'clock. Fox Sports Southwest, Rangers and Rays wrapping up this 3-game series from Rangers Ballpark in Arlington. Rangers trying to hang on here with that 5-run lead. Robbie Ross is now in charge of the mound for Texas.
It was an outstanding effort by Nick Tepe. 7 1/3. The 2 runners out there are his. 4 hits and 1 run so far.
And Sean Rodriguez, first ball swinging as a pinch hitter. He fouls out to Mitch Moreland. So 1 pitch, and the pitch hitter Rodriguez pops out. A very big out, number 2. Well, runners still at second and third, and you can tell what a jumble of nerves Nick Tepesch is. It's about as businesslike as you're gonna see it.
He and his father have had the same look on their face the whole game.
Now Ben Zobrist, and he takes ball 1 from Robbie Ross. Zobrist tonight, 3 ground balls, 3 outs. He did drive in a run with his ground ball in the 3rd inning. Jennings at second, Kelly Johnson at third, and the next pitch from Robbie Ross way inside. It is 2-0. How would you like to play poker with those guys? Nick Tepesch and his father.
You can't tell what's going on inside by the look outside.
Nope, sure can't.
But that was a very composed first big league start for Nick Tepesch. Very impressive.
The only rough spot in that 2nd inning when he had 3 walks, and he really rebounded very nicely. And credit Mike Maddox going out there and punching the right buttons. There's a strike, and Zobrist now at 2-2. Mike Maddox doesn't get a lot of the credit I think he deserves sometimes. The pitching coaches say, well, you know, they don't do a lot, they don't throw the ball, but they enable guys to get things done. Ross off the mound will take it to the bag himself, and a good job by Robbie Ross. The 1 earned run is all Nick Tepesch is going to allow in 7 1/3. We're going to the bottom of the 8th. The Rangers 6 and the Rays 1 on Fox Sports Southwest.
Rangers leading the A's 6-1. We head to the bottom of the 8th. Time for the progressive fan of the game. It has to be Bob, longtime Ranger fan and a season ticket holder all the way from Oklahoma. Bob, how long have you been watching the Rangers?
Since they were the old Senators in '67.
There we go. Also tried to start a chant in the stands tonight. What was that?
Here's Zinski! Here's Zinski!
Very nice. Also did a little shaking going on, and very nice, Bob, having a great time. Here's the bag, Bob. Way to go. Ranger fan of the game, progressive Ranger fan of the game. There you go, Bob. Thank you,
Bob.
Keep up the great work.
We'll see you a lot.
All right,
there's a guy having a good time
He
at
is
the
having
ballpark.
fun. No doubt about that.
I like the Pierzynski, kind of a takeoff on the Napoli.
Yeah, only works for catchers. Brandon Gomes, the new pitcher on the hill now. Marty Foster, the appeal to him. It is strike one. Gomes came into last night's ball game, worked a perfect 6th inning in that 5-4 Ranger win. Tonight, Rangers leading 6-1 here in the bottom of the 8th inning. Mitch 0 for 3 tonight. A couple of ground outs and a fly ball to center field. Rangers 6 runs on 9 hits. They have played errorless baseball. Rays 1 run on 4 hits. And they've committed an error. Rip and a miss. It's a ball and 2 strikes. Jason Frazier, veteran right-hander, out on the Ranger bullpen. Gomes, a long look in. Now the right-hander is set. Two balls and 2 strikes. Rangers trying to close this one out and win their 3rd consecutive series to open up the 2013 season. And Mitch, solid single to right field. That off-speed delivery up and out over the plate. I said, thank you very much. Well, Mitch with his first hit of the night. Rangers in double figures in hits with 10. Now the AT&T U-verse reverse replay. Jonas Martin. Quite a night for the young center fielder. Pair of base hits, a little looper into left field. And the next time up, nothing looper about that. He rammed it into right for a hit. He has been on all 3 times tonight. Those 2 hits and a walk, and he has scored 3 times. First ball swinging, he skies to the alley in left center, moving over is Jennings. Center fielder makes the catch. Moreland stays put. And there is 1 out now, back to the top of the Ranger order. So now Brandon Gomes will face Ian Kinsler. Ian a 2-hit night. Season average now up to .333. Team leader with those 3 home runs and 8 RBI. 1-0. Nothing unusual about Ian ripping the cover off the ball here at home, and he has made a career of that. He's doing it again this year as he did last year. Checked his swing. It's a strike. 1-1. Kinsler now 8 out of 18 on this homestand. Pops that one foul. That will reach the seats on the first base side. And it moves the count to a ball and 2 strikes. Jose Molina going down that side for a changeup. Kinsler waiting the 1-2 pitch. Pulled that changeup foul and into the far end of the Rays dugout.
Well, Ian has had 2 strikes on him most of the at-bats, and it really does appear, I got to ask him tomorrow if he's changed his 2-strike stroke just a little bit, because it looks like he's let up on his swing a little bit, trying to put the ball in play. Got a base hit and scored a run in the 3rd inning with 2 strikes.
Couldn't stop his swing that time, and he has gone on strikes.
Good slider.
Yep. So that is out number 2. Marlin staying at first, and now Elvis Andrus will come to the plate. Now for more on what's coming up on the Esurance Rangers Live postgame show, let's send it to John Radigan. John?
Yeah, Buzz, Esurance brings you Rangers live from here in the Captain Morgan Club. We'll have lots of post-game reaction to this one. We've got to hear from Nick Tepesch. How did he feel about this sterling performance? Only the 5th pitcher in Rangers history to go 7+ in his debut. Also, around Washington's comments, we'll have Mark McLemore here. Lots of analysis from you guys as well. It's Rangers Live, presented by Esurance, immediately following the game.
All right, John, thank you. And Elvis Andrus is swinging strike one.
Houston had scored 17 runs, I think, in their first 7 games. They've got 6 runs on 7 hits in the first inning in Seattle.
Wow.
That's an outburst.
Yeah. Saw last night they cut their strikeouts down, too. I think they were down to 8 last night.
Get it under 10?
Yeah, they did. A ball and a strike to Elvis. Andrus having a productive night. He has driven in a couple. 1 for 3 officially. Got Moreland at first with 2 outs here in the 8th inning. Gomes back to the plate. Boy, Gomes, a lot of deception. That changeup very effective for him. Now the right-hander is ready. Again, a check of Moreland at first. And the count evens at 2 balls and 2 strikes. Mentioned Elvis really enjoys hitting against Tampa Bay, has throughout his entire career. .333 the average against them last year in the first game and a half or so in this season. Pulls that one foul down the left field line. Elvis, a night in the 5th inning, he was able to get that key base hit up the middle, and then stole second after driving in the run and came around to score. And the next time up, he had the RBI ground out, waiting another run for the Rangers. So a good night for Elvis. That's out of play on the right side. Andrus now 5 RBI for the season. Next pitch will be the 7th of this at bat. So he is hanging tough in there. And we're going to go to at least 8 pitches. Now, still a very comfortable evening. I understand there's some rough weather out to our west and northwest coming in later tonight. Should clear out tomorrow in time for the ball game to start. Hope that all of you tonight are safe. And Tapper right back to the mound. Gomes will jog halfway over to first, and that'll do it for the Rangers. No runs, a hit, and 1 man left. We're going to the 9th inning. Rangers 6 and the Rays 1 on Fox Sports Southwest. on Fox Sports Southwest is brought to you by Ford. Take the EcoBoost Challenge at your Texas Ford dealer. Ford is the best in Texas. By the wireless receiver only from AT&T Ubers. Visit att.com/freeyourtv. Rethink possible. And by Progressive. Visit progressive.com today. Now, as we head to the top of the ninth inning, most of the crowd of better than 31,000 still on hand, and they're going to watch the veteran right-hander Jason Frazier come on and see if he can close out the Rangers' 6th win of the 2013 season. So Frazier becomes the 3rd pitcher used tonight. Nick Tepich worked the first 7 1/3 in his major league debut. Robbie Ross came in and did an excellent job. 2/3 of an inning, got 2 quick outs to get out of any potential damage in that 8th inning. And now Frazier coming on, facing Evan Longoria to start off the 9th inning. Longoria a walk and 2 groundouts. 0 for 2 officially. Pulls that pitch foul. And the count evens at a ball and a strike. Frazier's last outing 3 nights ago against the Angels. Gave up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning of work. And he hits the inside corner. Good fastball there. And he has Longoria in a hole now at 1 ball and 2 strikes. Frazier from the set. And Longoria pops it up. Ian Kinsler started out into right field. Now the wind pushing it back toward the skin of the infield. And Ian hauls it in. That is out number 1. Now James Loney will step to the plate. In the news from the Rangers today, in case you happen to miss it, Julio Bourbon designated for assignment. Nick Tepich added to the active roster. That was the move that was made, and Rangers now have 8 days or so to try and work out a trade with someone for Bourbon before they have to put him through waivers and lose him for nothing.
Hey, you'd have to think there's a team out there willing to give up a player to get him rather than wait and try to claim him on waivers. Julio had a good spring. He's got good tools, and there's definitely a big league team out there that he can help.
Well, he takes outside, ball and a strike to count. And Matt Harrison's status for his start on Thursday up in the air a bit. He's been bothered by a balky lower back. It's been bothering him for a little while. And for the folks that were really concerned about Harrison's outings, that would explain a lot of the difficulty Matt had that was very un-Harrison-like in his first 2 times out. Out of play.
Well, in his last start, Buzz, it really looked like a pitcher that had that going on because uncharacteristically he just wasn't able to get the ball down at all.
Yeah.
Everything was up in the strike zone, and so no one, at least not many people, knew that anything was wrong with his back. But after looking back at it, I guess you can understand.
Right. Yeah, and don't get me wrong. We're not trying to make excuses for Matt, and he would not use that as an excuse ever for poor performance. Next pitch is pop foul. That again will lose the seats. But anybody that's had a bad back knows that how limiting it can be. And that is one of the least comfortable things to have. But hopefully Matt will get the treatment. He's been getting treatment every day since his last outing. And Rangers will decide probably after he sees how treatment goes tomorrow whether he's going to try and make that start or what they're going to do exactly. They have a couple of options. Derek Lowe could make a start. If Matt doesn't, they can also call Justin Grimm up from AAA to make the start. There's a 2-hopper hit out to Kinsler. That's going to be out number 2. Jason Frazier, 2 quick outs. And now he will deal with Shelley Duncan. Rays down to their last out. Duncan tonight just had a devil of a time, no pun intended on the Devil Rays, solving Nick Tepish. Couple of strikeouts and a ground ball at third. Crowd on its feet here at Rangers Ballpark. And Duncan, first ball swing, a towering pop fly. And that is going to be pushed back about 5 rows by the wind. Elvis over there to hop up on top of the tarp just in case. You never know. Wind conditions, it might push the ball back. Elvis having a little fun with the folks in the first row. You can knock the ballpark, you never know. You might get Elvis to come and sit in the seat next to you. Pop fly like that.
I think it was Will Clark went down the right field line looking for a pop-up. Went in the stands. The guy was looking at the ball. He reached down and grabbed some of his popcorn and made it.
0-1, the count to Duncan. 0-2. Well, Jason Frazier lighting it up a little bit for the home crowd here. Got the Rays down to their final strike. Oh, 2 pitch. Sky to right field. That's going to send Cruz back. Nelly stepping onto the warning track, makes the catch, and that'll do it. So Jason Frazier has a 1-2-3 ninth inning. The Rangers win their 6th ball game against 2 defeats this year. And Nick Tepish, the 24-year-old right-hander from Blue Springs, Missouri, wins his major league debut. 7 1/3 very strong innings for Tepish tonight. Just 4 hits and 1 run allowed. 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. And yes, indeed, hello win column as the Rangers go to 6-2 and will at least maintain a share of first place depending on the outcome of the Oakland game tonight. So Tepish and company defeat the Tampa Bay Rays. 6 runs on 10 hits for the Rangers tonight. A run on 4 hits and 1 error for the Rays. So they were completely hamstrung by Nick Tepish and company. Robbie Ross, 2/3 of an inning of perfect relief. And then Jason Frazier, a 1-2-3 ninth inning. And that spelled the W for Nick Tepish.